This is a reading of the book Understanding the Psychology. Introduction. The Greek myth of Eros and Psyche is one of the most instructive stories there is on the personality. It is an ancient pre-Christian myth, first recorded in classical Greek times, having had a long oral tradition before that, yet it is relevant for us today. This is not as strange as it might seem, since human biology appears to be the same today as it was in Greek times. So also the unconscious psychological dynamic of the human personality is similar. Basic human needs, both physiological and psychological, have remained stable, although the form in which those needs are satisfied may vary from time to time. This is why it is instructive to go to the earliest sources to study the basic patterns of human behavior and personality. Their portrayal is apt to be so direct and simple we cannot fail to learn from them. Also, we can begin to see the changes and variations peculiar to our own time. The role of the myth. Myths are rich sources of psychological insight. Great literature, like all great art, records and portrays the human condition with indelible accuracy. Myths are a special kind of literature, not written or created by a single individual, but produced by the imagination and experience of an entire age and culture, and can be seen as the distillation of the dreams and experiences of a whole culture. They seem to develop gradually as certain motifs emerge, are elaborated, and finally are rounded out as people tell and retell stories that catch and hold their interest. Thus, themes that are accurate and universal are kept alive, while those elements peculiar to single individuals or a particular era drop away. Myths therefore portray a collective image. They tell us about things that are true for all people. This belies our current rationalistic definition of myth as something untrue or imaginary. Why? That is only a myth. It's not true at all. We hear. The details of the story may be unverifiable or even fantastic, but actually a myth is profoundly and universally true. A myth may be a fantasy or a product of the imagination, but it is nonetheless true and real. It depicts levels of reality that include the outer rational world as well as the less understood inner world. This confusion concerning the narrow definition of reality may be illustrated by the thinking of a small child after a nightmare. A parent may say, to be comforting, it was only a dream, the monster was not real, but the child is unconvinced, and rightly so. To him it was real, as alive and real as any other experience. The monster he dreamed about was in his head and not in his bedroom, but it had, nonetheless, an awesome reality, with power over the child's emotional and physical reactions. It had an inner reality for him that cannot and should not be denied. Myths have been carefully studied by many psychologists. C.G. Jung, it's Carl Jung, for example, in his studies of the underlying structure of the human personality, paid particular attention to myths. He found in them an expression of basic psychological patterns. We hope to do the same with our study of Eros and Psyche in this particular book. First, we must learn to think mythologically. Powerful things happen when we touch the thinking which myths, fairy tales and our own dreams bring to us. The terms and settings of the old myths are strange, they seem archaic, out of date, very old and distant to us, but if we listen to them carefully and take them seriously, we begin to hear and to understand. Sometimes it is necessary to translate a symbolic meaning, but this is not difficult once we see how it can be done. Many psychologists have interpreted the Eros and Psyche myth as a statement of the personality. Perhaps it would be wise at the very beginning of this study to say that we are speaking of wherever it is found in men as well as in women. To confine this story to women's personalities alone would be to limit it severely. Dr. Jung, in one of his most profound insights, showed that just as genetically every man has recessive female chromosomes and hormones, so too every woman has a group of masculine psychological characteristics that make up a minority element in her. The man's feminine side, Dr. Jung called the anima. The woman's masculine side he called the animus. Much has been written about the anima and animus, and we will have more to say about both of them later within this book.